Welcome back, everybody. We are diving deep today into
Yeah.
something I think a lot of us struggle with, that feeling of doubt when life throws curveballs.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be unpacking an excerpt from a talk called "Is the Plan Working?" by Elder Adrián Ochoa.
Okay.
And it's all about navigating those times when, well, you kind of question if what you're doing is really making a difference and if this whole plan of happiness thing can really hold up against real world problems.
Right. And for those listeners who maybe aren't as familiar, in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the plan of happiness refers to God's plan for our eternal progression and joy. It encompasses our life here on earth and the purpose of our experiences here and the potential we all have for growth and happiness even beyond this mortal life.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
So Elder Ochoa starts right off the bat with this relatable situation of this young adult who is, well, losing faith a little, right? He feels like the plan of happiness just isn't working out for him.
Mhm.
Like he's putting in the effort but not seeing the results he expected. I mean, have you ever felt that way?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like a universal human experience to start questioning things when we hit those roadblocks. You know what I mean?
Sure.
To address this, Elder Ochoa brings in this powerful analogy, the story of Jesus walking on the water.
Okay, so let's break this down. I mean, we all know the story, but what's the connection here?
Well, it's more than just a miracle. Think of it kind of like a metaphor for all of our journeys of faith.
Okay.
Peter, full of belief, steps out of the boat and actually starts walking towards Jesus. But then the wind picks up and those waves, they get rough and he starts to sink.
He takes his eyes off of what he believes in and just gets overwhelmed by the situation.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really, really interesting. How often do we do the same thing?
Oh, all the time.
When things get tough, we lose sight of the bigger picture,
Right.
doubt creeps in, and suddenly we feel like we're drowning in our troubles.
It's like that feeling of, wait, wasn't this supposed to be easier?
Right. And so from this story, Elder Ochoa pulls out these three key principles. The first one, and it really stood out to me, was the power of acting in faith even when it feels small. He shares this really heartwarming story about Elder Alonso, whose son had recently passed away, and Elder Alonso's young daughter actually reassured her siblings, saying, "Daddy is okay. He is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ." And it's about making those small choices that align with what you believe in, even if you can't see the immediate impact.
I love that because sometimes it can feel like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Is this even making a difference?
Yeah. Yeah, and that leads us perfectly to that second principle Elder Ochoa brings up, turning to Jesus when we're in times of trouble. Remember in the story, when Peter starts to sink, he cries out, "Lord, save me."
That feeling of desperation, I think we've all been there.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And for me, that's like the core of this principle, recognizing our need for help,
Hmm.
especially when we're feeling overwhelmed. We aren't meant to go it alone, you know?
So it's not about ignoring our struggles or pretending everything's fine, but acknowledging we need support and some guidance.
Exactly. And in the context of this talk, that support comes from a higher power, from turning to Jesus. But even if you don't, subscribe to a specific religion, the idea of seeking help and guidance when you're struggling is universal, right?
It could be reaching out to a friend, a mentor, or even a therapist.
Yes.
Anyone you trust who can offer you a listening ear and a different perspective.
Exactly. And it ties back to this idea of repentance, not just in like the traditional religious sense, but in the sense of course correcting,
Right.
reevaluating where you are and, consciously choosing to turn back towards what you believe in.
And sometimes that course correction comes through action, like
Mhm.
Elder Ochoa illustrates with this story of the missionary who is really struggling with the Book of Mormon.
Right.
Instead of getting his testimony through passive study, he found it through actually living the principles that were taught.
That is such a powerful example. It reminds us that sometimes understanding comes through doing, through putting our faith into action.
Mhm.
It's like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
You can read all the instructions you want, but you won't really get it until you hop on and try it.
Yeah, there's something about that hands-on experience that solidifies things in a way that just reading or thinking about it can't.
Totally. And it leads us to that third principle, humility and growth. It's so easy to view those setbacks as like personal failures. But Elder Ochoa encourages a different view.
Hmm.
He points out that Jesus' response to Peter, "O thou of little faith," wasn't condemnation. It was like an invitation to greater things.
It's that reminder that we're all works in progress, constantly learning, evolving, and it's okay to have a little bit of little faith sometimes, as long as we're open to growing.
Right. And humility plays a key role in that growth. When we approach challenges with humility, we become less resistant to change and more willing to learn from our experiences, even the tough ones.
It's like saying, okay, maybe I messed up here, but what can I learn from this and how can I use this experience to grow?
Exactly. And that ties to the idea that serving others can strengthen our understanding of the plan of happiness, right?
Right.
When we shift our focus outward to contributing to something larger than ourselves, it can change our whole perspective.
It's like that quote, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. It's in those moments of selflessness that we often gain the clearest insights into our own purpose and place in this grand scheme of things. It really is amazing how, helping others can sometimes bring so much clarity into our own lives.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Elder Ochoa's talk,
Yeah.
let's revisit those three principles that just stood out to me.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
So first, we talked about acting in faith, even when it just feels small.
Right.
It's those everyday choices, those little steps that we take that can lead to some pretty big changes in the long run.
Right. It's like ripples spreading out from a single pebble dropped in a pond.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
And then there's, the idea of turning to a source of strength and guidance, like when times get rough, whether that's through prayer or meditation or even just seeking out support from, your friends and loved ones, or even taking a moment to reconnect with that inner compass of yours. It's all about acknowledging that you don't have to go through it alone,
Mm-hmm. And finally, embracing humility as like this pathway to growth. Seeing those challenges not as failures, as we said before, but as opportunities to learn and evolve, it really does shift your whole perspective, I think.
It totally does. And, the biggest message here is that even when you feel like the plan, whatever plan you subscribe to isn't working, that's when you need it the most. Those moments of doubt and struggle, they're not a sign that the plan is flawed. They're like this call to dig deeper and to lean into what you believe and to come out stronger on the other side.
It's like those weight training workouts where you just push yourself to the limit.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough in the moment, but it's how you get stronger and build resilience.
I like that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So as we leave you to ponder all of this, I want to leave you with one question that's been kind of swirling around in my head this whole time.
Yeah.
What if, instead of seeing challenges as failures of the plan, we saw them as, well, opportunities to learn and grow?
Yeah.
How might that change, how we approach our whole lives? That's a powerful thought to sit with. It's like a reminder that our perspective shapes our reality. Until next time, everybody, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep